The 1st of September, 1939. Nazi Germany invades Poland, marking the beginning of the Second World War. In May of the following year, the Germans establish Auschwitz concentration camp, located about 60 kilometers west of Krakow. The primary reason for the establishment of the camp is the fact that mass arrests of Poles are increasing beyond the capacity of existing local prisons. In October 1941, the Nazis begin construction of Birkenau, which will become the largest of more than 40 camps and subcamps making up the Auschwitz complex. From March 1942, Auschwitz-Birkenau plays a central role in the German effort to kill the Jews of Europe, and approximately 1 million people, probably about 90% of the victims of Auschwitz concentration camp, will die there. From August 1942 until the camp's evacuation in January 1945, one of Birkenau's personnel is an SS officer who in his position will participate in the selections and gassings of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. His name is Franz Hössler. Franz Hössler was born on the 4th of February 1906 in the Bavarian village of Oberdorf, then part of the German Empire. Hössler left school early to pursue a career as a photographer. Afterward, he found work as a warehouse employee. But like many others during the Great Depression of the 1930s, he eventually lost his job and faced unemployment. Hössler was married, and the marriage produced 3 children. In the early 1930s, Germany faced severe economic and political turmoil, largely due to the impact of the Great Depression. After years of hyperinflation in the early 1920s, the stock market crash of 1929 brought the economy to a standstill. Millions of Germans were unemployed, and many lost their savings, homes, and livelihoods. The government struggled to cope with the crisis, which led to widespread dissatisfaction. Politically, Germany was deeply fragmented, with extremist parties gaining traction. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party exploited this chaos by promising to restore the country's economic and military power. Hitler blamed Jews, communists, and the Treaty of Versailles for the country's woes. His message of national pride, economic recovery, and strong leadership resonated with a suffering population, making him and his party increasingly popular as traditional political institutions failed. Franz Hössler was among the millions who believed that Hitler was Germany's only hope, and in 1932 he joined both the SS and the Nazi Party. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. During his time in the SS, Hössler rose to the rank of SS Obersturmführer, which was equivalent to First Lieutenant, and became a reserve officer in the Waffen-SS, the military branch of the SS. After the Dachau concentration camp was established in March 1933, he became one of the first members of the guard staff and later worked as a cook. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. In June 1940, Hössler was transferred to Auschwitz concentration camp, located in German-occupied Poland. He briefly headed the camp kitchen there, and was later assigned as a unit commander, overseeing the daily operations and management of prisoner labor. During his time at Auschwitz, Hössler became one of the most feared SS officers, even though his appearance did not align with the Aryan ideal. He stood at 1.7 meters tall, had a pale complexion, a slightly pointy nose, and 2 scars on his cheeks. One of his most distinctive features was his strong lisp. He spoke with a Viennese accent and would frequently say, "Mein lieber Mann," which means, "my dear fellow." Among the prisoners, he earned the nickname Papa Hössler. However, this seemingly benign persona concealed a much darker reality. Hössler was a sadist who would harass and torture the prisoners during roll calls, punching them in the face, kicking them, and stepping on those lying helplessly on the ground. Hössler was also known for the so-called standstills he organized for the entire camp whenever a prisoner escaped. During these events, all prisoners had to stand to attention, sometimes for up to 24 hours, while he would look out of the window and say, "You'll be standing here until either the one who escaped is found, or 300 of you collapse." His cruelty extended far beyond daily camp life. In July 1941, Hössler accompanied a transport of 575 selected inmates from Auschwitz I to the euthanasia center at Sonnenstein Castle, where they were murdered. In June 1942, Hössler, along with fellow SS officers Otto Moll and Hans Aumeier, participated in the killing of 168 survivors of a failed uprising in the punishment section of Auschwitz I. After Auschwitz-Birkenau was formally expanded into an extermination camp in 1942, Hössler took on various commands there. From September to November 1942, a brigade of prisoners known as Sonderkommando Hössler exhumed 107,000 corpses from mass graves around Auschwitz main camp to burn them in the new crematoria at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Sonderkommando was a unit of camp's prisoners forced to help with the disposal of gas chamber victims. The prisoners of the Sonderkommando were almost invariably murdered after their work was completed. At the same time, Hössler continued to work in the old crematorium at the main camp, Auschwitz I, where he was involved in gassings in the bunkers. Johann Kramer, the SS camp doctor from August to November 1942, recorded a transport of 1,703 Dutch Jews to the main camp, managed by Hössler. Approximately 100 of them were selected for hard labor, the rest for the gas chamber. In his diary, he wrote about an incident on the 12th of October 1942, when Hössler tried to force the entire group of about 1,600 Dutch prisoners who had been selected to be gassed into a single bunker. He succeeded until the last man, who could not be crammed further into the bunker. Hössler then shot this man with a revolver. As the war dragged on, the conditions in Auschwitz became more dire, exacerbating the suffering of the inmates. Desperation led some prisoners to seek any means of survival, even in the most degrading circumstances. By the middle of 1943, Hössler became involved in recruiting so-called Aryan prison women with the prospect of better food and care for a newly opened camp brothel at the Auschwitz I main camp. Many women saw the brothel as a chance to escape the harsh conditions of camp life, believing that it offered a slim opportunity for better treatment and survival. In August 1943, Hössler was promoted to the senior role of protective custody camp leader at the Auschwitz-Birkenau women's camp, which he directed alongside Maria Mandl, considered one of the most sadistic female guards in the camp. In this position, he played an active role in the selection process, which determined which prisoners would be spared and which would be sent to the gas chambers. During selections, Hössler often worked closely with Josef Mengele, nicknamed the Angel of Death, notorious for his cruel experiments on inmates. Polish Holocaust survivor Zofia Czerwinska recounted after the war how one of these selections unfolded. Mandl, wearing gloves and holding a stick, would beat and push prisoners toward Mengele, who had the final say. That day, 3,000 women were selected. They were thin or emaciated or had ulcers on their bodies. However, instead of being sent directly to the gas chamber, they were taken to Block 25, known as the Block of Death. A few days after this selection, Zofia went to Block 25 to collect some rags, and when she reached the entrance, she encountered Mandl and Hössler leaving the block in high spirits. Mandl said to Hössler, "They deserve this." A few moments later, as Zofia entered the block, she witnessed a horrifying scene that she would never forget for the rest of her life. She saw a large pile of corpses, with fragments of flesh gnawed away by rats, and the air was thick with the unbearable stench of death. There were more corpses than living people inside. Almost all of them had bitten fingers and breasts and plucked out eyes. Both those who had already died of hunger and the surviving prisoners were sent to the crematorium. Deception was another tool Franz Hössler used to manipulate and control prisoners. Philipp Müller, one of the few Sonderkommando members who survived Auschwitz, recounted a speech by Hössler intended to deceive a group of Greek Jews in the undressing room near the gas chambers. Hössler welcomed them on behalf of the camp administration, explaining that this was a labor camp, not a holiday resort. He assured the prisoners their health would be taken care of, offered promises of well-paid work, and suggested that after the war, they would be judged based on their contributions and treated fairly. His speech was a calculated tactic to manipulate and pacify the prisoners. After delivering his deceptive welcome, Hössler instructed the prisoners on how to proceed as they unknowingly prepared to enter the gas chambers. He said, "Now would you please all get undressed, hang your clothing on the hooks we have provided, and please remember your number. When you've had your bath, there will be a bowl of soup and tea or coffee for all. Oh yes, before I forget, after your bath, please have ready your certificates, diplomas, school reports, and any other documents so that we can employ everybody according to his or her training and ability. When diabetics who are not allowed sugar, report to staff on duty after their baths." Then, they all entered the gas chamber and were murdered. For a brief period between March and May 1944, Hössler served as the camp commandant of the Neckarels concentration camp in Mosbach in Germany. This camp was a sub-camp of the larger Natzweiler-Struthof complex, located in German-occupied France. Following the Allied invasion of France in June 1944, Hössler returned to the main camp at Auschwitz, where he took on the role of protective custody camp leader until the camp's final evacuation in January 1945. As the Red Army advanced on the Eastern Front, SS personnel at Auschwitz evacuated to Mittelbau-Dora concentration camp, located in central Germany. Former Auschwitz commandant Richard Baer assumed control of the Dora section, and Hössler was once again appointed as protective custody camp leader. On the 5th of April 1945, as the American 3rd Armored Division closed in on Mittelbau-Dora, Hössler led a forced evacuation of prisoners to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, located approximately 180 kilometers to the north. During this evacuation, prisoners were subjected to brutal death marches, where they were forced to march long distances under harsh conditions, often leading to exhaustion, starvation, and death. Upon arrival at Bergen-Belsen on the 8th of April 1945, Hössler became deputy camp commander under Josef Kramer, the former commandant of Auschwitz-Birkenau, then commandant of Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. At Bergen-Belsen, Hössler directly shot prisoners until the liberation of the camp on the 15th of April 1945. Shortly after, Hössler was found hiding among prisoners in camouflaged clothing and was detained by the British Army. Along with the remaining SS staff, he was forced to bury thousands of corpses in mass graves. From September to November 1945, Hössler and 44 other camp staff were tried in the Belsen trial by a British military court at Lüneburg. During the interrogation, Hössler offered cooperation and initially provided details about his career at various concentration camps. When questioned about the gas chambers at Auschwitz, he admitted they were well known in the camp, but claimed he did not participate in the selection of prisoners. Instead, he said, he was only present to maintain order during selections. Hössler stated that the camp doctors were responsible for the selections. He also reported on the arrival of Jewish transports at Auschwitz-Birkenau and the gassing of sick and unfit individuals. Hössler identified Rudolf Höss and Richard Baer as the responsible commanders at Auschwitz. During the trial, Hössler claimed that in his 12 years of service in the concentration camps, he had never seen a prisoner beaten or ill-treated. He said, "I have never seen SS people beating prisoners, but I heard several times from the doctors that prisoners had been wounded through fights or because they had been beaten. But whether they had been beaten by SS people or by other prisoners, I could not tell." His lies, however, did not help him escape justice. On the 17th of November 1945, the British military tribunal sentenced Franz Hössler to death by hanging. He was 39 years old when the British executioner Albert Pierpoint carried out the sentence on the 13th of December 1945. There were no tears shed for Franz Hössler.
Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.